How many times have you said, "I'll start tomorrow, tomorrow to change, tomorrow to focus, tomorrow to rebuild"? But the truth is, tomorrow never comes. It's always today. And the longer you wait, the heavier your own potential becomes. You've already survived the hardest parts of your life, the heartbreaks, the losses, the disappointments. But now comes the hardest decision of all, to stop waiting for the right moment and start creating it. Rebuilding yourself isn't about erasing who you were, it's about choosing who you'll become next. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need one spark, one choice to begin. Every person you admire once started broken, unsure, and afraid. The difference? They started anyway. They didn't wait to feel ready. They acted, they failed, they learned, they rebuilt. And now it's your turn. Because there will never be a perfect time, only a powerful now. So, stop waiting for change. Become the change. Start today. Start now. Chapter 1. The Cost of Waiting. You keep telling yourself you're not ready, that the timing isn't right, that maybe after this week, this month, this phase you'll finally start. But deep down, you know it's a lie. Waiting has become your comfort zone. Every "I'll start tomorrow" is another brick in the wall between you and the life you were meant to live. You think you're being patient, but what you're really being is afraid. Afraid to begin. Afraid to fail. Afraid to face what you could actually become. The truth is, waiting doesn't protect you, it poisons you. It convinces you that you still have control while silently draining your potential. Days blur into weeks, weeks into months, and suddenly you're standing in the same spot, only older, heavier with regret. Time doesn't wait for your courage to catch up. Every second you hesitate, your dreams decay a little more. The cost of waiting is invisible at first until it's unbearable. You tell yourself you're preparing. You call it planning, researching, getting ready. But planning isn't progress. It's the illusion of movement that keeps you standing still. You're addicted to the feeling of almost ready because it lets you avoid risk while pretending you're working. You confuse activity with advancement. You decorate your comfort zone and call it discipline. But nothing changes, not until you act. Waiting steals more than time. It steals identity. The longer you delay, the more you become the person who doesn't act. You start identifying as someone who's trying instead of someone who's doing. That subtle shift kills potential faster than failure ever could. The world doesn't remember the ones who almost began. It remembers those who dared, even when they weren't ready. Regret isn't born from the things you did wrong. It's born from the things you never tried. Every day you postpone action. You strengthen the voice that says, "Maybe I'm not capable." You begin to internalize hesitation as truth. You lose respect for yourself because deep down you know what you should be doing. Nothing haunts you more than the memory of your own inaction. You think you're buying time by waiting. You're not. You're paying for it with opportunity. Life doesn't pause while you get ready. Doors close. Energy fades. People move on. The window for greatness isn't eternal. It's fleeting. By the time you feel prepared, the moment is gone. The real cost of waiting isn't what you miss. It's what you'll never even know you could have had. Every second you hesitate, your future self watches, powerless. The version of you who could have been extraordinary is standing in the distance, waiting for you to move. But you keep feeding fear instead of faith. Waiting becomes your addiction because it feels safe, and safety kills more dreams than failure ever will. You'll convince yourself that waiting is wisdom, that being cautious is maturity. But there's a fine line between patience and procrastination. Most people cross it without realizing. Patience is when you're preparing while moving forward. Procrastination is when you're waiting for the fear to disappear. That fear never disappears. It's meant to be faced, not avoided. The cruel thing about waiting is that it rewards you with comfort now and pain later. Every day you choose comfort, you're choosing suffering in the long run, because when the chance is gone, when you finally wake up ready, life won't wait. The universe doesn't pity hesitation, it rewards momentum. You look at others succeeding and think they had better timing. They didn't. They just stopped waiting. They acted while you analyzed, learned while you lingered, grew while you hesitated. The difference between you and them isn't talent, it's decision. They paid the price of discomfort early. You're paying the price of delay every day you stay still. Waiting is disguised fear. It tells you stories. You need more clarity. You need more confidence. You need to heal first. But all those narratives are tricks to protect your ego. Growth doesn't come after healing. Growth is the healing. You won't find courage before action. You'll find it after. Think of all the moments in your life you postponed, conversations you avoided, goals you shelved, dreams you labeled someday. How many of those still echo in your mind? That ache isn't nostalgia. It's the sound of your potential dying quietly in the corner. Every someday is a graveyard of unrealized versions of you. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. Momentum works both ways. It either builds progress or reinforces paralysis. Inaction breeds more inaction. The habit of hesitation becomes muscle memory. You train your brain to pause at every edge of growth. Before you know it, hesitation becomes who you are. You can't rebuild a life you keep postponing. You say you're waiting for motivation, but motivation is built through motion. You want to feel ready before you move, but readiness is born from movement itself. The ones who rise don't wait to feel brave. They move while afraid, and courage catches up later. You've mistaken overthinking for intelligence. You tell yourself you're analyzing, strategizing, being smart. But sometimes thinking is just a sophisticated way of hiding. You're not strategizing, you're stalling. You don't need another plan. You need execution. You don't need permission, you need momentum. Waiting kills passion slowly. At first, your dream burns bright, but the longer you delay, the dimmer it gets. Inspiration has an expiration date. If you don't act when the fire is alive, it dies, and when you try to relight it later, all you find are ashes. You can't reignite a dream you starved of action. You wait for external validation, a sign, a mentor, divine timing, anything to make you feel it's the right moment. But waiting for signs is still waiting. The universe responds to movement, not hesitation. When you take the first step, clarity follows. When you move, the path reveals itself. But you have to walk into the unknown first. The cost of waiting isn't visible like money spent or time logged, it's internal decay. It's your self-belief eroding quietly, your energy leaking into excuses, your confidence turning to dust. Waiting isn't neutral. It's an act of self-betrayal disguised as safety. You keep saying, "I'll start when I have time." But time is never given, it's taken. The people who build extraordinary lives aren't less busy, they're just less willing to wait. You'll never have time. You have to make it. Every delay tells life that your dream isn't a priority. You say you're waiting for the right mindset, but mindset is built through momentum. You don't wake up disciplined, you become disciplined by acting when you don't want to. The cost of waiting for a perfect headspace is that it never arrives. Action creates alignment, not the other way around. Chapter 2. Take the first step, even when you're not ready. You think readiness is some magical state where fear disappears, confidence appears, and everything makes sense. But that moment never comes. Readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. The truth is, you'll always be uncertain, scared, or doubting yourself. And that's exactly when you must move. Waiting to feel ready is like waiting for silence in a thunderstorm. Life will always be loud, chaotic, and uncertain. The only thing that calms it is your action. Every great change begins with a single uncomfortable step. Not a plan, not a wish, but movement. The people you admire didn't start with clarity. They started with chaos and carved clarity out of it. They didn't know all the answers, but they acted anyway. Because the first step doesn't demand perfection, it demands courage. You won't see the whole staircase, you just need to trust the first step will hold your weight. Fear will never vanish before you begin. It's not meant to. Fear exists to test whether what you want is worth fighting for. If you let fear lead, it will build you a life of safety and regret. If you move through it, it will build you a life of freedom and growth. The difference between fear and progress is motion. One paralyzes you, the other transforms you. The first step is the hardest because it challenges everything you've been protecting, your excuses, your comfort, your false certainty. It's the moment when dreaming ends and becoming begins. That's why it feels heavy. You're not just moving your body, you're moving your identity. You're letting go of the person who waits and choosing to become the person who acts. You'll never be ready because the version of you that's ready doesn't exist yet. They're born through the process of doing. You become capable by showing up. You build confidence through small wins, not thoughts. You learn by failing forward. Readiness is something you earn by stepping into discomfort again and again, not something handed to you in silence. Most people die waiting for perfect timing. They convince themselves they're being wise, but deep down, they're terrified. The clock doesn't care about your fears. The world keeps spinning while you hesitate. The longer you wait, the heavier your fear becomes, and the lighter your dream grows. Eventually, it drifts away, weightless and gone. You've spent too long studying the path when you should be walking it. You've memorized every possible outcome, every potential failure, and every excuse. But the only thing you haven't done is start. You can't learn to swim by standing on the shore describing the waves. You have to dive in. You have to feel the current. You have to risk drowning to discover you can float. The mind craves control, and that's why it resists starting. It wants a guarantee before it commits. But life doesn't reward guarantees, it rewards leaps of faith. Every time you act without full certainty, you're teaching your brain to trust you. You're building self-respect, the kind that only comes from movement. Control is an illusion. Growth happens in chaos. You think failure is the worst thing that could happen. It's not. The worst thing is never trying at all. Failure gives you data, lessons, direction. Waiting gives you nothing but regret. You can fix mistakes, you can't fix wasted time. Every stumble forward is progress. Every step delayed is decay. The cost of inaction is always higher than the cost of failure. The first step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to exist. Even the smallest action carries momentum. Write one line, make one call, take one risk. Motion is what matters. Once you move, clarity forms, opportunities appear, and fear loses power. It's the stillness that breeds doubt. Action is the antidote to overthinking. You've been conditioned to believe that you need confidence to act. It's the opposite. Action creates confidence. You can't think your way into belief. You have to earn it through effort. Confidence is built like a muscle by repetition, strain, and failure. The first step is your first rep. You get stronger each time you show up despite the shaking hands. You tell yourself you're not ready because you fear judgment. But people will judge you whether you act or not. They'll laugh if you fail and forget you if you never try. Either way, you're being judged. So, why not be judged for doing something that matters? Their opinions won't build your life, your actions will. Every beginning feels awkward. You'll stumble, you'll doubt yourself, and you'll question if it's even worth it. That discomfort is proof you're alive, growing, evolving. Comfort is the enemy of change. Every time you take a step despite feeling unready, you're teaching your spirit to expand beyond fear's reach. The mind's favorite trap is, I'll start when I have more time, when I have more money, when I feel inspired. But the truth is, when never arrives. It's a mirage built by fear. If you can't start small now, you won't start big later. The first step must be taken in imperfection. That's how strength is born. There's beauty in beginning unprepared. It humbles you, forces you to learn fast, and keeps you hungry. Perfectionists wait their whole lives for the right setup. Builders use what's in front of them and grow from it. Progress is messy, but it's real. You can polish mistakes. You can't polish intentions that never turned into actions. You'll be scared, uncertain, doubtful good. That means you're doing something that matters. Fear is the price of growth. The ones who rise aren't fearless. They're just done letting fear make decisions for them. They walk into the unknown, trembling, and come out transformed. That's how you earn your power. The first step reveals your true strength. It shows you that the monsters in your mind were smaller than you imagined. It teaches you that progress isn't found in confidence, but in consistency. Every move forward rewires your identity from I can't to I'm doing it. And that shift changes everything. You'll never be able to predict how things will unfold, but you can predict what happens if you don't act. Nothing. The pain of inaction will always outweigh the discomfort of trying. So pick a direction, any direction, and move. The path will bend as it should. Stagnation kills more dreams than failure ever did. Courage isn't loud, it's quiet and lonely. It's taking a single step when no one believes in you, when you doubt yourself, when everything feels heavy. That's the kind of courage that builds empires. The world never rewards the thinker who waits, it rewards the doer who dares. You have to stop confusing readiness with worthiness. You're already worthy of a new beginning. You don't need to earn the right to start. You just need to take responsibility for your next move. Readiness is not a condition, it's a choice. And the moment you decide, the universe bends to meet you halfway. Chapter 3. Destroy the old you. You've carried your old self for too long, the version of you built from fear, excuses, and survival. That version protected you once, but now it's the cage that suffocates your growth. You can't step into your future while dragging the corpse of who you used to be. Destruction is necessary. You have to burn the version of yourself that clings to comfort, validation, and the illusion of control. The old you loves safety. It hides behind routine, behind stories of this is just who I am. But that's not identity, that's stagnation. The old you survives by convincing you that change is dangerous. It whispers that the unknown will destroy you. But what it doesn't tell you is that staying the same already is. Growth demands sacrifice, and the first thing it asks for is your old skin. Every time you make excuses, that's your old self speaking. Every time you replay failures instead of learning from them, that's your past tightening its grip. The old you thrives on guilt, fear, and hesitation. It wants you predictable, obedient, controllable. You can't negotiate with it. You have to confront it. You have to look it in the eye and say, you had your time, it's over. Destroying the old you isn't about hating who you were. It's about refusing to stay trapped there. The person you used to be made choices based on pain, insecurity, and survival. You honor them by evolving, not by repeating their cycles. Gratitude without growth becomes a prison. The old you was necessary, but now it's the obstacle. You won't evolve through inspiration, you'll evolve through confrontation. Real change begins the day you stop explaining your weakness and start exposing it. You must become brutally honest about your patterns, the comfort you chase, the lies you tell yourself, the habits that numb your potential. Every truth you avoid strengthens the old you. Every truth you face weakens it. The old you loves the mirror, it needs validation to exist. But the new you doesn't care to be seen. It's too busy being built. Stop performing for approval. Stop trying to prove your worth to people who wouldn't recognize your growth, even if it stood in front of them. The destruction of the old self begins when you stop living for their applause. You'll try to bring your old self into your new journey, but it won't fit. It'll fight to survive, whispering comfort into your chaos. You'll hear it say, "You've changed," and it'll mean it as an insult. But that's how you know you're growing. The moment your old self starts to hate your progress, you're doing it right. The old you feeds on familiarity, the same environment, the same people, the same patterns. To destroy it, you must disrupt its supply. Change your surroundings. Challenge your routines. Distance yourself from anyone who keeps feeding your old identity. You can't build a new life around people invested in your past. The pain you feel when you change is your old self dying. That's why it hurts so much, not because you're broken, but because you're shedding. Every identity death comes with grief. You'll miss who you were, even if that version was miserable. But pain is proof of transformation. Don't medicate it, endure it. Let it finish its work. You'll be tempted to rebuild the old you when things get uncomfortable. You'll crave the comfort of old habits, old distractions, old stories. That's when you must remind yourself the old life broke you. You can't heal by returning to what hurt you. The discomfort of becoming is temporary. The regret of staying the same lasts forever. The old you wants shortcuts. It wants growth without discipline, results without sacrifice. That's why it never evolved. It loved the idea of success but hated the process. The new you must be forged in consistency. You have to show up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's hopeless. That's how you earn transformation, not by wanting it, but by outlasting who you were. The most dangerous version of the old you is disguised as logic. It says things like, "Maybe this isn't realistic. Maybe I'm too late. Maybe I should settle." It sounds reasonable, but it's fear wearing a suit. Don't let logic kill your fire. The world doesn't need another realistic person. It needs someone reckless enough to rebuild from ashes. Destroying the old you requires forgiveness. You can't evolve while carrying resentment for who you were. You did what you could with what you knew. Forgive your past self, but don't let them lead your future. Compassion is closure. Closure gives you permission to rise. The process isn't clean. You'll relapse into old habits. You'll slip, fail, doubt, and restart. That's not weakness, that's the battle. The old you doesn't die quietly. It screams through temptation, through fatigue, through shame. Every relapse is another round in the fight. The key is to rise faster than you fall. You'll lose people when you destroy your old self. Not because they hate you, but because they were attached to your comfort. They liked the version of you who dimmed your light to make them comfortable. Growth threatens stagnation. Don't shrink to fit their expectations. Let them go. The new you can't carry dead weight. The old you loved control. It avoided risk, avoided emotion, avoided truth. But the new you must live differently, raw, real, vulnerable. You can't rebuild yourself while pretending to be unbreakable. Strength isn't about looking solid. It's about being honest enough to shatter and still rebuild. Every great transformation begins with destruction. The seed must break before it grows. The caterpillar must dissolve before it flies. You're not falling apart, you're reconfiguring. The chaos you feel is creation in disguise. Let the old structures crumble. They're not meant to survive your rebirth. You have to stop mourning your comfort zone. It wasn't peace, it was paralysis. It felt safe only because it required nothing from you. But that safety cost you your potential. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you kill a future version of yourself. The destruction of the old you begins the moment you stop calling fear peace. You'll know you're destroying the old you when things start to fall apart. Your habits, your relationships, your identity. Don't panic. That's alignment. The universe removes everything that doesn't match your new frequency. It's not punishment, it's purification. Let what's collapsing collapse. You'll find freedom in the rubble. When everything familiar is gone, you'll meet yourself raw, unpolished, honest. That's where rebirth happens. Not in the plan, not in the comfort, but in the ruins. The old you must die so the real you can finally breathe. Chapter 4. Rebuild through small daily actions. Everyone dreams of transformation, but few are willing to build it brick by brick. You don't rebuild your life in a single breakthrough. You rebuild it through small, unglamorous actions, repeated until they change who you are. Everyone wants the highlight reel. No one wants the quiet grind. But real growth is invisible at first. It happens when you show up for yourself long before anyone notices. The small things you do daily carry more power than the big things you do occasionally. The world worships intensity, but it's consistency that rewires your identity. Anyone can burn bright for a week. Only the disciplined burn steady for years. Change isn't a spark, it's a slow fire that consumes everything that no longer belongs to you. You rebuild yourself not through massive leaps, but through small steps taken with intention. You wake up, you do the work, you fall, and you rise again not once, but 1,000 times. You brush your teeth of discipline, eat your breakfast of focus, and drink your water of patience. The details make the destiny. Every tiny act of effort is a vote for the person you want to become. You keep looking for motivation, but motivation is just adrenaline. It fades fast. What truly rebuilds you is routine. The things you do when you don't feel like doing anything. Those are the moments that shape your future self. Discipline doesn't shout, it whispers. And it's those quiet whispers, repeated daily, that eventually roar into success. The old you loved big dreams but hated small steps. It wanted shortcuts, not systems. It chased inspiration instead of discipline. That's why it kept collapsing under pressure. The new you must fall in love with the process, not the prize. Because the process is what lasts, the prize is temporary. Every morning you rise is another chance to lay a single brick. You don't need to rebuild your whole life today, you just need to move 1 inch forward. You can't control the mountain, but you can control the next step. The mountain is climbed through repetition, not revolution. The truth is, small actions compound silently. You won't see the difference for weeks, maybe months. But behind the scenes, your mind, habits, and energy are reorganizing themselves. Then one day, everything clicks and people call it luck. But it wasn't luck. It was thousands of invisible victories no one clapped for. Rebuilding isn't glamorous. It's messy, boring, and painfully slow. You'll doubt yourself, question the process, and crave shortcuts. But shortcuts cheat you out of strength. The slow path builds muscle, not just in your body, but in your mind. Patience is weightlifting for the soul. When you commit to daily action, you stop waiting for the right mood. You work through sadness, fear, doubt, and fatigue. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. Emotion doesn't determine your consistency, character does. And character is built when you move forward, even while breaking inside. You don't need to transform overnight, you just need to improve slightly every day. Even 1% of progress compounded over time becomes unstoppable growth. The mind resists small progress because it craves dramatic change, but life rewards steady effort. Drip by drip, discipline builds the flood. Habits are how you rebuild yourself. Every decision you make, every repetition, is carving a new pattern into your brain. You're teaching your subconscious who you are. That's why small daily actions matter. They're not just tasks, they're identity training. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally desire. The real challenge isn't starting, it's staying. Anyone can begin with enthusiasm, but those who rebuild themselves stay when it gets boring, when the fire dims, when no one's watching. Consistency without applause is the truest form of strength. You don't need validation, you need rhythm. Every small action is a seed. Some grow quickly, others take years to sprout. But if you stop watering them, they all die. Don't judge your progress by what's visible. The roots of greatness always form underground first. Keep planting, keep watering, keep trusting. Growth is happening in silence. You rebuild your confidence by keeping promises to yourself. Every time you follow through, you tell your mind, "I can trust me." That's self-respect. The opposite of confidence isn't fear, it's self-betrayal. When you stop keeping your word to yourself, you crumble from within. Rebuilding begins with integrity. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is closed by daily repetition. Every time you take the harder choice, the disciplined choice, you shrink that gap. One push-up, one page, one walk, one truth faced. It doesn't matter how small. The key is that you moved when your excuses begged you to stop. There will be days you feel invisible, like nothing's working. Those are the most important days, because that's when most people quit. Rebuilding is a war of endurance. The ones who win aren't the strongest or smartest. They're the ones who kept going long after motivation died. Your future self is watching you. Every action you take is shaping them. They're counting on you to show up today. They can't exist without your effort. You're not just working for now, you're building a life that your future self will thank you for. Rebuilding is not a moment, it's a legacy. Progress will test you. You'll hit walls, face delays, and feel like nothing is changing. That's when you must remember, repetition is the hammer that breaks resistance. Every strike weakens the wall, even if you can't see the cracks yet. Keep swinging. Change doesn't happen suddenly. It happens gradually, then all at once. Rebuilding through small actions teaches humility. You realize how fragile motivation is and how powerful consistency can be. You learn that greatness isn't a feeling, it's a schedule. The ordinary days, done with extraordinary discipline, build an unshakable mind. That's the hidden art of self-reconstruction. You can't think your way into a new life, you must behave your way into one. Thoughts shift after habits form, not before. Don't wait for belief, build it through behavior. Every small action rewires your identity. Before long, the person who doubted becomes the person who leads. The discipline you build today becomes your shield tomorrow. Every repetition, every small promise kept, is a layer of armor against weakness. You don't rise because life gets easier. You rise because you become harder to break. The daily effort doesn't just rebuild your habits. It rebuilds your strength to face storms without shattering. Small daily actions teach you patience with pain. You learn to coexist with discomfort instead of running from it. Growth isn't about removing pain. It's about learning to operate within it. Every day you act while hurting, you're teaching your soul endurance. Pain stops being an enemy and becomes your silent training partner. You'll be tempted to look for progress too soon, to check the mirror of results after every step. But real transformation hides from impatience. It rewards the ones who can grind through silence. Progress is like sunrise, you can't rush it. But if you stay long enough in the dark, it always comes. The smallest consistent act will always outperform the biggest inconsistent one. Everyone wants to sprint, but rebuilding is a marathon. It's not about speed, it's about sustainability. You can't change your life overnight, but you can destroy it by quitting too early. Repetition is faith made visible. You're not rebuilding just habits, you're rebuilding identity. Every small win rewrites the story in your subconscious. You're no longer the one who fails to follow through, you're the one who finishes. You don't need others to believe in you once your actions start proving your truth daily. The quiet repetition of effort is where character is forged. You'll crave recognition, but that's not why you're doing this. You're not rebuilding for applause, you're rebuilding for alignment. When your actions match your intentions, you find peace. Discipline becomes your prayer, consistency your devotion. There's no shortcut to becoming who you're meant to be. The old you will keep whispering, "It's not working." That's how resistance speaks. Ignore it. Keep laying the bricks. Rebuilding is boring because real progress hides in monotony. The grind is sacred. It's where your strength is shaped in silence. Momentum doesn't feel magical, it feels repetitive. You'll think you're stuck because you're too close to see your own progress. But every time you act when you don't feel like it, you're pushing the wheel forward. Eventually, it turns faster, smoother, easier. What once drained you will one day define you. You'll want to skip the small stuff, the journaling, the workouts, the routines because they seem too insignificant to matter. But those are the bricks of transformation. Skip enough small things and you'll find yourself rebuilding the same ruins again. Do them daily, and you'll build a fortress within yourself. The world glorifies intensity because it's exciting, but consistency is sacred because it's rare. Everyone talks about their goals. Few execute them quietly every day. You don't need loud motivation. You need silent commitment. The louder the world gets, the more valuable stillness and repetition become. You'll rebuild your confidence through repetition. Every time you follow through, your brain records it as proof that you can rely on yourself. Self-trust isn't born in a seminar. It's born in the small moments where you keep going, even when no one's watching. You don't need more belief, you need more evidence built through effort. The hardest part of rebuilding isn't the work itself. It's staying patient when you feel invisible. You'll want proof that your effort matters. But faith in the unseen is what separates builders from dreamers. Builders keep showing up even when the world forgets their name. Progress doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like staying steady when your old habits scream for attention. It looks like not quitting, not collapsing, not going backward. Stability is still growth. Some days survival is success. When you choose small daily actions, you're declaring war on the impulsive self, the version of you that wants everything now. Patience is rebellion against the modern disease of instant gratification. While others chase quick results, you're building unshakable foundations. Rebuilding through small actions teaches humility. You realize you're not owed transformation, you have to earn it. Every day becomes an audition for your next level. Your habits are your resume. Your consistency is your reference. Life doesn't promote those who plan, it promotes those who persist. Every day you show up, you're rewriting your destiny. You're proving that discipline can outlast doubt. Each act of effort carves a deeper groove into your character. When the world tests you, you'll find your responses automatic, because consistency has become who you are, not what you do. Don't chase giant breakthroughs, chase daily victories. A single disciplined act repeated for 365 days will outshine 100 failed attempts at perfection. The old you worked hard in bursts. The new you works quietly in patterns. Master the pattern, and success becomes predictable. You'll notice that as you stay consistent, the chaos around you begins to quiet down. Your emotions stabilize, your focus sharpens. The noise of doubt fades into background static. Small daily actions don't just rebuild your habits, they regulate your mind. Structure is medicine for chaos. When you keep showing up, you start to respect time differently. You stop demanding immediate reward and start trusting delayed results. The person who can delay gratification becomes unstoppable. Patience isn't passive, it's power under control. Every small act teaches you that control. The daily grind will break your ego. You'll realize you're not special, you're just consistent. But that's the real power. When you stop needing to feel exceptional and start acting responsibly, your life stabilizes. Discipline doesn't make you superhuman, it makes you reliable. And reliability outlasts talent. There's something holy about repetition. It's prayer disguised as action. Every time you wake up and move despite fatigue, you're declaring faith in a better version of yourself. The world doesn't need your words, it needs your proof. Repetition turns belief into being. The person you become through daily effort is different from the one who started. You stop needing external motivation because identity takes over. You act because it's who you are, not because it's what you should do. That's when rebuilding turns into rebirth, when effort becomes instinct. Discipline teaches you emotional control. When you act regardless of mood, you stop being ruled by feelings. You still feel fear, anger, doubt, but they lose their power to direct your choices. That's maturity. Emotion becomes information, not instruction. The more consistent you are, the more your priorities sharpen. Distractions lose their grip. You stop chasing everything and start committing to something. Purpose doesn't appear, it's built through repetition. You don't find meaning by thinking, you find it by showing up for what matters daily. The old you looked for balance. The new you builds rhythm. Balance is static, rhythm is alive. Small daily actions create rhythm, a flow between work, rest, reflection, and growth. Rhythm gives life structure without rigidity. It's how peace and progress coexist. When you rebuild through small actions, you stop glorifying hustle and start respecting pace. You understand that rest isn't laziness, it's part of the system. True discipline includes recovery. Sustainability is strength. The goal isn't burnout, it's becoming unbreakable. Every time you repeat a small action, you're planting a flag in your future. You're saying, I'm not giving up. That's what momentum really is. Invisible proof that you refuse to disappear. Every step you take leaves a mark on the timeline of who you're becoming. Don't underestimate the power of showing up. 90% of transformation is presence. Most people quit because they don't feel inspired. The few who rebuild themselves know that inspiration comes after action, not before. Show up broken if you must. The act of showing up begins the repair. Small actions are how you take back control. Life can throw chaos at you, but if you keep your routines, you anchor your mind. When you move with purpose, the world can't push you as easily. Structure doesn't limit you, it frees you from randomness. You'll notice that success stops feeling like a finish line and starts feeling like a rhythm. That's how you know you've evolved. You no longer chase outcomes, you sustain effort. You stop asking, when will it work? And start saying, I'll keep working until it does. The old you wanted certainty, the new you accepts process. You no longer need to see every step before taking it. You trust the system you've built. That trust is liberation. When your habits are solid, you move through life with quiet confidence, not arrogance, just alignment. Daily repetition purifies you. It burns away laziness, ego, and inconsistency. The more you stay consistent, the more you realize how little you need to feel fulfilled. Simplicity becomes power. Repetition becomes peace. Progress becomes prayer. When you keep moving through discipline, you attract alignment. Opportunities find consistency. Luck finds effort. The universe opens doors for those who prove they can walk through them every day. Action is your message to destiny that you're ready. Eventually, your small actions create gravity. They pull everything you've ever wanted toward you, not through magic, but through momentum. You'll look back and realize the climb was worth every step. The days you thought were ordinary were actually divine. And one day, you'll wake up different. The routine that once felt forced will feel natural. The person who once had to fight to act will now act automatically. That's the reward for consistency, a new identity. You won't need to rebuild anymore. You'll simply live as the person you built. Chapter 5. Pain is proof you're evolving. Pain isn't a punishment, it's a signal. It's the universe's way of telling you that you're changing. Growth isn't comfortable, it's dismantling. You can't evolve while staying numb. The process hurts because you're shedding old layers, tearing away what no longer fits the person you're becoming. Pain is your body, mind, and soul reorganizing themselves for a higher version of you. You keep asking for strength, but strength doesn't come wrapped in ease. It arrives dressed as struggle. Every challenge you face is life's way of giving you the exact conditions needed to grow. You can't develop courage in comfort. You can't find resilience in routine. The pain you resist is the same pain that carries your evolution. The old you dies slowly, and death is painful. When you leave behind patterns, people, and beliefs that once defined you, a part of you grieves. That ache in your chest isn't failure, it's rebirth. You're in the process of becoming someone new, and your old self doesn't go quietly. Let it hurt. That's the sound of transformation. Pain shows you what still controls you. It exposes your attachments, your fears, and your illusions of control. Every time something hurts, it's an invitation to examine what part of you is still fragile. Evolution doesn't just demand strength, it demands awareness. Pain is the mirror, look into it. You think healing means feeling better, but sometimes healing means feeling everything. The emotions you've buried rise to the surface, screaming for release. That's not regression, that's cleansing. You can't carry unresolved pain into your next chapter. Growth requires you to sit in discomfort until the lesson dissolves into wisdom. Most people run from pain because they think it means something's wrong. But what if it means something's right? What if it means you're finally breaking the cycle that kept you stagnant? Every time you lean into pain, instead of escaping it, you reclaim power. You're teaching your nervous system that you can survive discomfort, and that changes everything. You can't outthink pain, you must outlast it. The more you resist it, the louder it becomes. But the moment you accept it, it begins to transform. Pain doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to demand your evolution. Once you stop labeling it as bad, you start learning from it. The greatest version of you is on the other side of discomfort. You'll never find it in ease, applause, or validation. You'll find it when you're broken, questioning, and forced to rebuild from the ruins. Pain teaches humility. It reminds you that growth isn't about control, it's about surrender. Pain is the most honest teacher you'll ever meet. It doesn't flatter, it doesn't lie. It shows you where your limits truly are. And if you're brave enough to face it, it will stretch those limits until they break. Every tear you've shed has been a tuition payment for your evolution. The difference between the strong and the stuck is their relationship with pain. The strong use it, the stuck avoid it. Avoidance delays growth, acceptance accelerates it. You can't numb pain without numbing potential. The deeper you feel, the deeper you evolve. There's a kind of pain that feels unbearable, not because it's too heavy, but because it's meaningful. It's the pain of becoming aware, the pain of realizing what you've allowed, what you've tolerated, what you've lost by playing small. Awareness cuts deep, but it sets you free. That's the price of awakening. Pain is proof that you're alive. It's the evidence that you're still capable of transformation. The numb never change because they've stopped feeling. You, on the other hand, are still capable of ache, which means you're still capable of becoming. The fire burns, yes, but it also forges. Don't mistake emotional chaos for weakness. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open. The cracks you feel are necessary. That's where light gets in. You're learning how to breathe underwater, how to move through storms without losing your center. That's evolution in motion. Pain refines priorities. It strips away illusions about what truly matters. When you hurt, clarity appears. The things that once felt urgent suddenly fade. You begin to see that much of what you chased was noise, not purpose. Pain simplifies. It brings you face to face with what's real. Growth hurts because your soul is expanding beyond the limits of who you were. Expansion always stretches. It's uncomfortable, but necessary. If it doesn't hurt, it's not evolution, it's maintenance. Don't aim to feel better. Aim to become better. The feeling will follow. You'll reach a point where you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That's the shift. That's when pain becomes purpose. The lesson hidden inside the suffering reveals itself only to those who stay long enough to listen. Every scar has a story, not of weakness, but of survival. You endured what could have ended you, and that endurance became strength. Pain leaves marks, but those marks are sacred. They remind you of the fire you walked through and the person you built from the ashes. The ones who evolve aren't the ones who avoid suffering. They're the ones who find meaning in it. Pain without meaning feels cruel. Pain with purpose feels sacred. It's not what you go through, it's what you extract from it that defines your growth. When you accept pain as part of your path, you stop fearing it. You understand that evolution demands discomfort. You stop asking for easy days and start asking for strength to handle hard ones. That's how resilience is born, not through ease, but through endurance. There's a kind of peace that only comes after chaos, the peace of knowing you survived. That calm after pain isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You've seen darkness and still chose to move forward. You've touched despair and still built hope. That's not luck, that's mastery. You can't numb pain selectively. If you close your heart to suffering, you close it to joy too. To evolve, you must feel it all, the highs, the lows, the ache, the beauty. Full feeling is full living. Don't run from it, learn to hold it. Pain is proof that life is stretching you into new dimensions. Every trial is a test, not of your worth, but of your willingness to keep moving. The more you resist, the more it hurts. But when you surrender to the process, pain becomes guidance. The most painful moments often hold the most sacred truths. The heartbreak, the failure, the betrayal, they all carry messages wrapped in fire. Once you decode them, you stop fearing life. You start seeing pain as divine instruction instead of cruel interruption. You'll realize pain doesn't destroy your strength, it reveals it. It doesn't make you weak. It exposes the parts of you that still need growth. Every time you face suffering head-on, you're proving to yourself that you're not fragile. You're becoming fireproof. Pain is evolution's sculptor. It chisels away your ego, your illusions, your excuses. It leaves behind only what's essential truth. That's why it feels harsh. Growth isn't gentle, it's precise. It removes everything that doesn't serve the masterpiece within you. If it hurts, it means it matters. Pain follows purpose like a shadow. The closer you get to your calling, the more resistance you'll feel. That's not the universe punishing you, that's it preparing you. You can't carry your old weakness into your new chapter. Every moment of discomfort is a vote for transformation. Every challenge you survive becomes part of your foundation. Pain builds resilience, and resilience builds peace. Once you've been through the fire, you no longer fear the flame. You'll start to see beauty in the struggle. You'll realize the same pain that broke you also built you. It softened your heart while sharpening your vision. It humbled you while hardening your will. Pain isn't the opposite of growth. It's the ingredient that makes it real. Evolution is never clean. It's messy, unpredictable, and raw. Some days you'll feel like you're falling apart, but you're not collapsing, you're rearranging. The discomfort is proof that your spirit is no longer compatible with your old patterns. Stop chasing a painless life. The absence of pain isn't peace, it's emptiness. Peace isn't found in avoiding difficulty, it's found in walking through it with grace. Pain will visit you regardless, might as well invite it to teach you something before it leaves. When everything hurts, focus on movement. One breath, one step, one act of courage. Don't try to escape the storm. Learn to dance in the rain. Every time you move through pain instead of around it, you're teaching yourself how to evolve with strength instead of fear. Pain is how life tests your sincerity. Everyone says they want change until change starts to hurt. If you quit when it stings, you weren't chasing transformation, you were chasing comfort. But if you stay, endure, and adapt, that's when evolution becomes irreversible. You'll know you're evolving when old triggers lose their power. What once broke you now barely moves you. That's what healing looks like, not the absence of pain, but the presence of calm in its shadow. You've outgrown what once consumed you. One day, you'll thank the pain. You'll look back and realize it was never your enemy. It was the forge that shaped your strength, the teacher that taught you endurance, the storm that cleansed your path. You needed the struggle to reveal your potential. You'll never be the same person again, and that's the point. The pain that changed you also awakened you. You see the world differently now. You understand that every scar is sacred, every ache has meaning, and every struggle was a step toward evolution. And now, you move differently. You no longer fear endings because you've learned they're just disguised beginnings. You no longer avoid pain because you know it's proof you're alive, proof you're growing, proof you're still becoming. You are the evolution itself. Pain is the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. You can't cross it without getting burned. Every step forward leaves a piece of your old identity behind, and that shedding hurts. But that's what bridges do. They separate the past from the future. You're walking through the fire because the person waiting on the other side can't exist without it. Sometimes, pain isn't there to change your life. It's there to change your perception. It's meant to make you see differently, feel differently, understand differently. It stretches your empathy, your patience, your wisdom. You start realizing that the things you once called suffering were actually sculpting your compassion. You'll reach a point where pain doesn't shock you anymore. It humbles you. You'll stop saying, "Why me?" and start saying, "Of course me." Because life doesn't test the weak, it tests those capable of transformation. The deeper the pain, the greater the purpose attached to it. You were trusted with it for a reason. Every scar on your heart is a reminder that you participated in life. You didn't sit on the sidelines numbed by fear. You felt deeply, risked fully, lost badly, and still stood up. That's not damage, that's depth. The ones who've never hurt deeply will never love deeply either. Pain removes illusions. It strips away false pride, shallow priorities, and artificial happiness. It reveals what's real. When you're broken open, you stop chasing noise and start craving peace. Pain doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you wiser about what truly matters. When everything hurts, it's easy to believe you're falling apart. But what's really happening is rearrangement. Life is moving your pieces into new positions. You can't see the pattern yet because you're inside the puzzle. Trust that one day, all the pain will make sense in hindsight. Pain trains you to appreciate peace. Without contrast, there's no gratitude. You wouldn't recognize light if you never walked through darkness. The people who've suffered the most often love the deepest, because they understand how fragile joy really is. Pain is perspective disguised as punishment. The ache that feels unbearable today will one day be the reason you don't break tomorrow. Pain builds emotional endurance. You learn that no feeling lasts forever, not joy, not despair. That understanding makes you unshakable. You stop chasing pleasure and start choosing peace. You'll notice that pain changes your language. You start speaking less about what you want and more about what you can handle. You stop idolizing comfort and start respecting endurance. Strength stops being about dominance and starts being about resilience. Pain rewires the definition of power. When you run from pain, you keep restarting the same lesson in different forms. The universe doesn't punish, It repeats until you learn. Every time you avoid discomfort, you delay transformation. Facing it once is hard. Avoiding it forever is torture. Choose the short pain of change over the lifelong pain of stagnation. The people who've truly evolved don't hide their scars. They wear them with quiet pride. They know pain didn't break them. It built them. You can tell by the calm in their eyes. They've seen enough storms to stop fearing thunder. That's what peace after pain looks like: stillness, not softness. You can't numb your way to growth. Pain ignored becomes poison. It seeps into your thoughts, your relationships, your energy. Healing doesn't start when the pain stops. It starts when you face it honestly. The only way out is through, and the only way through is with courage. Pain doesn't ask for permission. It enters without knocking, rearranges your life, and leaves you with a version of yourself you barely recognize. But that new version is truer, stripped of illusion, sharpened by experience. The invasion was necessary. The destruction was instruction. You'll learn that some of your greatest blessings arrive dressed as heartbreak. The job loss that led you to purpose, the betrayal that taught you discernment, the failure that introduced you to resilience. Pain rearranges the path so that you find what you were meant for, not what you settled for. Pain makes you honest with yourself. It shows you what you can't fake anymore, what you don't love, what you don't believe, what you can't continue. It corners you into authenticity. You either grow or you stay broken. And the choice, brutal as it is, becomes your liberation. The deeper the wound, the deeper the wisdom that follows. You can't intellectualize that kind of knowledge. You have to bleed for it. You earn it through nights of doubt and mornings of endurance. Pain writes wisdom directly on your soul. It becomes a language only survivors understand. You'll notice pain doesn't leave when you grow, it just changes form. Growth doesn't remove suffering, it refines it. You stop hurting over nonsense and start hurting over purpose. That's when pain becomes sacred, when it serves your evolution instead of your destruction. Don't curse the season of suffering. It's where your character is being forged. You're being tested in silence, strengthened in obscurity, prepared for visibility. Every invisible battle is building an unbreakable version of you that you'll one day meet with pride. Pain is the tax of transformation. Everyone wants the upgrade, but not the invoice. The universe doesn't hand out growth for free, it charges through discomfort. Every ounce of pain you endure is payment toward the life you're trying to build. It's expensive, but it's worth it. You don't outgrow pain, you outgrow the way you suffer from it. Maturity isn't the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of response. Pain still arrives, but you meet it differently. You no longer collapse under it, you converse with it. That's emotional evolution. Pain teaches surrender. There's a point in suffering where fighting makes it worse. You stop trying to fix everything and learn to let it flow through you. Acceptance doesn't mean defeat, it means alignment. When you stop resisting, healing finally begins. You'll find that pain is never random. It appears in exact proportions to your next level. The heavier the ache, the higher the purpose. The universe doesn't waste pain on the unprepared, it only gives it to those capable of using it. Your suffering is a complement to your potential. You'll learn that pain gives depth to gratitude. After heartbreak, love feels richer. After loss, presence feels precious. Pain recalibrates your senses. It teaches you to find beauty and simplicity and meaning in moments you used to overlook. That's how it blesses you after it breaks you. Pain forces transformation that comfort would never demand. You won't change while everything's easy. You'll only change when staying the same becomes unbearable. That's why the universe sends pain to push you where your logic wouldn't dare go. The stronger you become, the more pain you can hold without collapsing. That's not hardness, that's capacity. Strength isn't about being untouchable, it's about carrying suffering with grace. You still feel everything you've just learned how to stay standing. Sometimes pain isolates you, and that's intentional. Growth requires solitude. It's in the silence that you face yourself without distraction. Pain removes the crowd so you can hear your own voice again. That's where self-respect is rebuilt, in the echo of your own endurance. You'll begin to see that pain and peace coexist. They're not enemies, they're partners. Pain sharpens, peace soothes. One teaches you endurance, the other teaches you stillness. Together, they balance your soul. You can't know true peace without first walking through pain. You'll never find real strength in what's easy. Pain is the only teacher that forces depth. Ease keeps you shallow. Suffering takes you to the roots of your being. It breaks your pride, humbles your heart, and births understanding. The people who've suffered most often radiate the deepest calm. The next time life hurts, remember you're not being punished, you're being refined. Diamonds don't form in comfort. They're shaped under pressure, cut with precision, polished through friction. Every ounce of pain is making you rarer, stronger, and more luminous. Pain has a strange way of introducing you to yourself. You'll see parts of you that were invisible when life was easy. You'll discover strength, creativity, and resilience you never knew existed. Pain expands your self-awareness like nothing else can. Sometimes you won't realize you've evolved until you face the same pain again and react differently. That's when it hits you. You've grown. The situation didn't get easier. You got stronger. The fire stayed the same. Your resistance didn't. That's proof of transformation. Pain makes space for new beginnings. Every ending feels cruel while it's happening, but endings are just exits disguised as collapse. You're not losing, you're clearing. Pain burns bridges you were too afraid to walk away from. Let it. Some bridges need to be ashes. You'll start to admire the scars that once embarrassed you. You'll understand they're not reminders of weakness, but proof of strength. You didn't avoid life, you lived it fully. Scars are evidence of courage, not damage. They're your soul's autobiography written in resilience. Pain teaches you patience. You can't rush healing, and you can't skip steps. You learn to sit in uncertainty without losing faith. That waiting, that endurance stretches your capacity for grace. The longer you endure, the deeper your roots grow. The more pain you survive, the less you fear it. That's the secret of resilience, not that it stops hurting, but that you stop being afraid of the hurt. Fear loses its control when you realize you've already lived through worse and survived. Every time you rise from pain, you rebuild trust in life. You understand that destruction doesn't mean the end. It means transformation is beginning. You stop fearing loss because you've seen yourself rebuild from nothing. Pain turns fragility into faith. And one day, pain won't define you, it'll empower you. You'll use it as fuel, as art, as wisdom. You'll channel it into purpose, creation, and compassion. Pain will stop being your enemy and become your language, the sacred dialect of those who've evolved through fire. Chapter 6. Discipline is the real self-love. You think self-love is comfort, but real self-love is correction. It's not about giving yourself everything you want. It's about teaching yourself what you actually need. Discipline is the highest form of respect you can show yourself. It says, I deserve a life that demands effort. You don't love yourself by indulging weakness, you love yourself by strengthening it. Discipline is not punishment, it's protection. It shields you from the chaos that comes from living without structure. Most people think freedom means doing whatever they want, whenever they want. But freedom without order is destruction. Discipline creates boundaries where your peace can finally exist. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're proving that you care about your future more than your impulses. That's love, not the soft kind, but the fierce kind that saves you from yourself. The easy thing ruins you slowly. The hard thing rebuilds you completely. Discipline is choosing your higher self over your current mood. Self-love is not always gentle. Sometimes it's waking up early when you want to sleep, saying no when it's uncomfortable, and walking away from what numbs you. It's looking at your excuses and saying, "Not today." Love that doesn't hold you accountable isn't love. It's neglect dressed in comfort. Discipline is consistency in action when motivation is gone. It's showing up when the excitement has died and only the responsibility remains. It's doing the right thing, especially when no one's watching. You can't claim to love yourself while constantly betraying your own promises. The truth is, discipline is rare because it requires honesty. You can't be disciplined and delusional at the same time. It demands that you face your laziness, your fear, your excuses, and still act. It strips away the drama and forces you into ownership. That's why it hurts, because it exposes your truth. You'll never find self-worth in self-indulgence. It comes from self-control. Every time you resist a temptation that weakens you, you reinforce belief in yourself. You stop being at the mercy of moods. You stop needing external validation. You realize strength isn't found in what you conquer outside, but in what you master within. Discipline is how you tell the world you're serious about your life. Talk fades, feelings fade, only habits remain. Discipline is the muscle memory of greatness. You don't need motivation when repetition becomes identity. What you do daily becomes who you are permanently. People romanticize self-care, but real self-care is doing the uncomfortable work of alignment. It's budgeting when you want to spend. It's working out when you're tired. It's saying no to toxic patterns that feel good but destroy you. Discipline isn't glamorous, but it's sacred because it saves you from a life of regret. The old you chased pleasure. The new you builds purpose. Pleasure is instant and empty. Purpose is slow and fulfilling. Discipline is the bridge between the two. You can't reach fulfillment while living for convenience. The path of meaning is paved with consistency, not comfort. Every morning you wake up and do what's necessary instead of what's easy. You're rewriting your destiny. You're proving that love is a verb, not a feeling. The way you treat your time, your body, your focus, that's your real love language. Discipline is self-affection translated into effort. Discipline separates the dreamers from the doers. Everyone wants results. Few are willing to build the habits that lead there. You can't cheat consistency. You either pay the price daily or you pay it painfully later. The undisciplined seek escape. The disciplined build evolution. You'll find that discipline feels lonely at first. You'll lose people who prefer your comfortable version, but soon you'll realize their approval was the cost of your potential. Greatness demands isolation before it allows expansion. The ones who can't sit in silence will never lead in strength. Discipline is rebellion against weakness. Every time you act with restraint, you're breaking generational habits of mediocrity. You're telling the world that you won't repeat the patterns that broke those before you. That's how legacies begin, not with noise, but with quiet consistency. There's nothing more powerful than doing the right thing repeatedly. Repetition builds rhythm, rhythm builds momentum, and momentum builds identity. Discipline isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Miss a step, but never stop the dance. You'll start realizing that the more disciplined you become, the less you need motivation. You'll stop relying on moods because you've built systems. Systems are stronger than feelings. Feelings change. Systems carry you through change. Discipline is structure that holds you when your emotions collapse. The lazy self will always whisper, "You deserve rest." But real rest comes after earned effort, not avoidance. Rest without work is escape. Rest after discipline is reward. One heals you, the other numbs you. Choose the kind of peace that follows effort, not excuses. Discipline means you stop negotiating with yourself. The mind loves to bargain. Just 5 more minutes. I'll do it tomorrow. But success doesn't negotiate. It requires obedience to your vision. When you stop debating with your excuses, you reclaim the energy you've been wasting in conflict. Self-love isn't about being kind to your moods. It's about being loyal to your mission. Your emotions are passengers, but discipline is the driver. You can acknowledge how you feel without letting it dictate where you go. That's maturity, emotion respected, action protected. The deeper you go into discipline, the quieter your mind becomes. You stop living in constant guilt because you know you're showing up. Peace isn't found in leisure, it's found in integrity. When your actions match your intentions, you sleep differently. You'll notice that disciplined people move differently, slower, calmer, more precise. They don't rush because they trust their process. That's what consistency gives you. Confidence without arrogance. You don't need to prove yourself when your results do the talking. Discipline is love that endures discomfort. It's love expressed through repetition, sacrifice, and restraint. Every time you resist temptation, you're whispering, "I deserve better." You can't claim to value your future while feeding your distractions. The hardest part of discipline is starting, but the hardest part after that is continuing. You'll wake up some days with no energy, no clarity, no passion, and that's when discipline shows its true purpose. It carries you through the valleys that motivation can't. Self-respect is the fruit of discipline. You don't build confidence from compliments, you build it from consistency. When you keep promises to yourself, you start to believe you're capable of anything. That belief is unshakable because it's rooted in evidence, not emotion. Discipline doesn't eliminate chaos, it organizes it. Life will always be unpredictable, but your habits give you stability. The disciplined don't need control of everything, they just need control of themselves. That's enough to rebuild any storm-struck life. You'll discover that discipline feels like sacrifice at first, but later it feels like liberation. The things you once called restrictions become your freedom. Structure doesn't limit you, it expands your capacity to move with purpose. That's the paradox of growth. The undisciplined crave comfort, the disciplined crave clarity. Clarity is what allows peace to exist without stagnation. When you know what matters, distractions lose their seduction. That's why disciplined people seem detached. They're not cold, they're focused. You can't fake discipline. You can fake confidence, motivation, even happiness, but not consistency. The results will always expose the truth. The body, the work, the life, they're all mirrors of what you repeat daily. Discipline isn't just physical, it's emotional restraint. It's refusing to react impulsively when provoked. It's mastering your response when anger wants control. The disciplined aren't unfeeling, they're trained. Power without discipline is chaos. Discipline turns power into precision. Each act of discipline is an act of faith. You're telling yourself, "What I do today will matter, even if I can't see it yet." That's what makes discipline spiritual. It's trusting the unseen reward of consistent effort. Every small act becomes a prayer of persistence. Discipline gives structure to love. You can't maintain relationships, goals, or peace without it. It's what keeps promises alive when emotions fade. Love built without discipline collapses when challenged. Love built with it endures everything. You'll lose comfort, but gain control. You'll lose distraction, but gain direction. That's the trade, and it's worth everything. Every time you choose effort over ease, you trade temporary relief for permanent respect. Self-respect lasts longer than pleasure. The more disciplined you become, the less you need approval. You stop chasing applause because you know your worth isn't external. The quiet pride of consistency is louder than any compliment. The disciplined don't shout their results, whisper legacy. Discipline turns chaos into clarity. It builds focus, patience, and emotional balance. It's not about rigid control, it's about conscious creation. Without discipline, life happens to you. With discipline, life responds to you. You'll find yourself growing softer and stronger at once. Softer because discipline teaches compassion for your process. Stronger because it removes weakness disguised as excuses. That's the duality of self-love. Through discipline, firm with yourself, yet patient with progress. Discipline is how you heal the gap between who you are and who you want to be. Every action in alignment is a bridge built across doubt. You're not waiting for the right time anymore, you're creating it daily. That's how transformation becomes inevitable. At first, discipline feels like deprivation, then it becomes devotion. You start to crave the peace that comes from consistency. The noise of impulse fades. You don't wake up looking for motivation anymore. You wake up knowing who you are. That's self-love in its highest form, calm, clear, committed. And one day, you'll realize that discipline isn't something you do, it's something you've become. It's no longer effort, it's essence. You'll look back at your old life and see chaos where peace now lives. That's what real self-love looks like. Not comfort, but control born from care. Discipline is what stands between potential and power. Potential is silent, everyone has it. Power is proven, only a few build it. You don't unlock it through emotion. You forge it through repetition. Every consistent act you commit to is energy solidified into identity. That's the real alchemy of self-love, turning intention into integrity. The more you practice discipline, the more you learn the difference between happiness and fulfillment. Happiness is fleeting. It depends on conditions. Fulfillment is internal. It comes from progress. You might not smile every day, but you'll wake up proud. Pride built through effort lasts longer than joy built through ease. Discipline refines your relationship with time. You stop wasting hours chasing temporary highs. You start building momentum that compounds quietly. Time stops being something you kill and becomes something you invest. You realize that every disciplined day buys you a freer tomorrow. The undisciplined version of you lived in reaction. The disciplined one lives in design. You no longer drift through moods, you move through missions. The same hours that once felt chaotic now feel controlled because you finally decided what matters. Discipline doesn't steal your spontaneity, it gives it direction. There's beauty in the monotony of progress. The repetition others call boring, you call sacred, because every repeated act is proof that you haven't given up. You've stopped chasing excitement and started cultivating mastery. Greatness grows quietly in the soil of routine, long before it blooms in public. Discipline gives you a kind of peace chaos can't understand. When you live with order, life feels lighter. You no longer wake up anxious about lost time or wasted energy. You know you'll handle what needs to be handled. That peace is earned, it's the dividend of consistency. The mind will fight discipline because it threatens comfort. It will create every excuse, every delay, every distraction. But once you win the first few battles, resistance weakens. You realize the enemy was never laziness, it was fear disguised as fatigue. You weren't tired, you were terrified of change. The disciplined life looks simple, but it's not easy. It demands sacrifice, boredom, and emotional regulation, but the rewards are invisible at first: confidence, clarity, control. You won't notice them growing until one day you face chaos and realize you didn't flinch. That's when you understand the discipline worked. Every time you choose discipline, you sharpen focus. You train your brain to follow commands instead of cravings. You stop being a hostage to your impulses. That's the quiet evolution discipline brings. It turns chaos into order, and order into peace. You'll notice discipline makes you gentler with yourself. Because when you're living with integrity, guilt disappears. You stop hating yourself for broken promises. You stop resenting your reflection. That's why discipline is love. It gives you back respect for who you are. Discipline is how you reclaim lost power. Every time you act, despite resistance, you tell your mind who's in charge. It's not about force, it's about choice. You're no longer reacting to emotion, you're leading it. That shift changes everything. Without discipline, talent decays, ambition burns out, intention dies in comfort. But with discipline, even average ability becomes unstoppable. The world doesn't reward potential, it rewards persistence. Show up long enough, and what you lacked in skill becomes irrelevant. There's a sacred loneliness in disciplined living. You'll feel misunderstood, even mocked. People will call you obsessed, rigid, robotic. But one day, they'll call you admirable. The same ones who laughed will wonder how you became unshakable. That's the irony. Discipline isolates before it elevates. Discipline cleanses your soul of chaos. The more structured your habits, the quieter your inner world becomes. You stop chasing dopamine and start living in purpose. It's not that life gets easier, it's that you become harder to derail. When you live with discipline, you stop confusing rest with escape. Rest becomes strategic, not emotional. You rest to recover, not to hide. That shift multiplies your energy and your peace. The disciplined don't burn out, they cycle power intelligently. You'll learn that discipline is contagious. It spreads through your environment. The moment you start holding yourself accountable, mediocrity around you starts to feel suffocating. People will either rise to meet your standards or drift away. Either way, peace increases. Discipline removes drama. You stop needing motivation from others, validation from peers, or permission from anyone. You know what must be done, and you do it. Life becomes quieter, not because it's empty, but because it's aligned. The disciplined self is a builder. Every day becomes a brick. You may not see the structure yet, but you feel its weight. Consistency becomes your foundation, patience your architecture, and one day you'll look back and realize the fortress was you all along. Discipline sharpens intuition. The more orderly your habits, the clearer your mind becomes. You start sensing what's right faster, choosing better without debate. The noise of indecision fades because repetition taught your instincts how to lead. You'll realize that love without discipline creates chaos. You can care deeply for yourself and others, but without boundaries, that love becomes indulgence. Discipline keeps compassion clean. It ensures your care doesn't become codependency. Every act of restraint adds to your reservoir of power. You don't need to prove it, flaunt it, or explain it. True power is quiet control. The disciplined never need to show strength, they carry it. Discipline forces you to confront your values. You'll have to decide what truly matters, comfort or clarity, ease or excellence. Every no you say to distraction is a yes to your destiny. Saying no is love in its strongest form. You'll find that time slows down when you live with intention. You start noticing details, the morning silence, the rhythm of your breath, the satisfaction of completion. Discipline makes life vivid again because you're no longer rushing through it. Discipline is the art of choosing long-term alignment over short-term relief. It's saying, I'd rather build something permanent than chase something pleasant. That single choice, repeated daily, is how ordinary people create extraordinary outcomes. The more disciplined you become, the more stable your emotions grow. You stop panicking over setbacks because you've built consistency that doesn't crumble. Discipline doesn't remove chaos, it gives you composure inside it. Every day you follow through, you strengthen your future self. You may not see it now, but you're sculpting resilience. The stronger your habits, the lighter life feels. Effort becomes easier when it's routine. Discipline doesn't demand perfection, it demands recommitment. You'll fail, you'll fall, you'll drift. But discipline is what brings you back. Forgive quickly, refocus immediately, restart relentlessly. The disciplined don't avoid mistakes, they recover faster. You'll learn that true love for yourself means protecting your standards. If something lowers your energy or derails your focus, you let it go, not out of pride, but out of preservation. Discipline is how you honor your peace. When discipline becomes instinct, temptation loses power. You don't fight cravings anymore, they dissolve because they no longer align with your identity. That's when you realize you've transcended habit. You've become harmony. Discipline is quiet strength in a loud world. While others chase attention, you chase improvement. While they talk about goals, you live inside yours. The noise fades. What's left is presence, precision, peace. You'll begin to enjoy the simplicity of order. Predictable routines will feel like luxury. You'll realize freedom isn't randomness, it's mastery over chaos. Structure becomes your sanctuary. Each disciplined day teaches humility. You understand that greatness isn't a single victory, it's thousands of unseen choices. You'll stop chasing applause and start chasing alignment. That's when you shift from seeking success to embodying it. You'll start protecting your energy the same way you protect your time. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every emotion deserves your reaction. Discipline isn't just physical, it's energetic boundaries in action. Discipline turns ordinary people into creators of destiny. You don't wait for conditions, you create them. You don't pray for strength, you prove it. You become the cause, not the effect. Over time, discipline becomes serenity. The noise of should and maybe fades. You no longer chase peace, you generate it. Your habits become harmony. Your effort becomes ease. Discipline doesn't just change how you act, it changes how you see. You begin to value process over outcome, consistency over excitement. You understand that real freedom is the ability to trust yourself completely. And finally, you realize discipline was never the cage, it was the key. It didn't restrict you, it revealed you. The life you wanted was waiting behind one simple truth. Love yourself enough to demand more from yourself. That's not control, that's liberation. Chapter 7. Rise again, stronger, sharper, unstoppable. Falling isn't failure, staying down is. Every breakdown carries the blueprint of a breakthrough, but only for the one who dares to rise again. You weren't buried, you were planted. The darkness wasn't your grave, it was your ground. What grows from here depends on your choice to stand, to fight, to rebuild stronger than the blow that tried to erase you. Every time you rise, you rewrite destiny. Life doesn't reward the flawless, it rewards the relentless. You've been tested, bent, cracked, yet you're still breathing. That's not survival, that's defiance. The fact that you can hurt and still move means you've already won half the war. Strength isn't built in success, it's built in recovery. Anyone can move when things are smooth, but real power is proven when you crawl through chaos and still keep your purpose intact. Rising again isn't glamorous, it's gritty. It's bleeding confidence while still showing up. You'll be tempted to call it over, to let the defeat define you. But endings are liars. They disguise beginnings as loss. Every collapse carries a hidden invitation. Will you rebuild or retreat? The ones who rise again answer with action, not words. The world doesn't remember the ones who fell. It remembers the ones who got back up louder, wiser, sharper. Falling only humbles the ego. Rising refines the soul. The stronger version of you is forged in that silent decision to continue. Pain broke you open, but now discipline must rebuild you. You can't heal passively. You have to rise intentionally with structure, with focus, with purpose. Every small step forward is an act of rebellion against the version of you that almost gave up. You don't rise by pretending the fall didn't hurt. You rise by accepting the pain, dissecting it, and using it as fuel. Every scar holds energy. Transform it into drive. The body heals slower than the spirit, but the spirit heals deeper when you let it move. The comeback always starts alone. No applause, no audience, just you and the echo of your will. That's where transformation is born, in the quiet corners of self-confrontation. Don't wait for validation. Create momentum in solitude. Failure is feedback, nothing more. The world told you no, not because you were unworthy, but because you needed refinement. The lesson you resisted the most is the one that will make you unstoppable once you absorb it. When you rise again, rise differently. Don't carry the same habits that broke you before. Pain without change is punishment. Pain with adaptation is evolution. Let your scars upgrade your system. Rising again doesn't mean restoring what was lost. It means creating something better. You're not returning to your old life. You're constructing your next level. Every storm clears the ground for stronger architecture. Build wiser this time. Resilience isn't a mindset. It's a lifestyle. It's built in repetition, showing up after setbacks, choosing purpose after pain. The more you fall and stand, the less you fear falling again. That's freedom, knowing that nothing can end you but your own refusal to rise. Each comeback begins with forgiveness. You can't rise while holding resentment toward yourself. Let go of the guilt for collapsing. You did what you could with the strength you had. Now rise with what you've learned. Redemption begins where blame ends. Failure should no longer humiliate you. It should educate you. Every loss carried a manual for your next victory. Study it. The ones who rise are simply the ones who read their pain instead of running from it. You rise stronger when you stop asking for fairness. Life isn't fair, it's revealing. It exposes what you still need to master. Every difficulty is data. Use it. Don't complain about the test. Prepare for the next one. Your rise will confuse those who watched you fall. They expected your silence. Instead, you return with strength. That's what scares mediocrity, not perfection, but persistence. Keep climbing quietly until your progress becomes undeniable. There's no glory without grit. The world will praise your success but never understand your rebuilding. Don't seek understanding, seek execution. Let your results explain what your pain prepared. Rising again requires faith, not the blind kind, but the stubborn kind that believes while bleeding. When you can't see the light, become it. When you can't find the way, create one. Faith is not the absence of fear. It's the refusal to surrender to it. Rock bottom isn't a curse, it's the clean slate you were avoiding. It removes illusions, distractions, and false support. Down there you meet truth. From there, everything you build will be real. Every time you rise, your character compounds. Strength becomes instinct. Fear loses its volume. Doubt becomes data. The comeback rewires you not just to win, but to withstand. That's what makes you unstoppable. You'll notice rising again makes you quieter. You stop announcing your moves because the pain already taught you humility. You no longer need validation. The work itself is enough. Silence becomes your new confidence. The first rise is physical. The second is mental. The final one is spiritual. You rebuild your body, your focus, then your peace. The complete comeback doesn't just restore you, it redefines you. Every time you stand again, you tell the universe, "You can't end me." That declaration echoes in the unseen. Life respects those who refuse to surrender. The more you rise, the more reality bends in your favor. Rising again means releasing the story of your fall. You can't heal while rehearsing hurt. Stop narrating what broke you. Start narrating what you're becoming. The story only changes when the storyteller does. Each setback reintroduces you to yourself. You discover patience, adaptability, resilience. You learn what's truly inside you, and it's always more than you thought. That realization alone is worth the pain it took to find it. The second chance isn't given, it's earned. You earn it through repetition, humility, and relentless action. Don't wait for luck to favor you. Discipline will. Every sunrise is a second chance disguised as a new day. Your comeback doesn't need to be loud, just consistent. Noise fades. Consistency compounds. Keep rising. Keep building. Keep proving. Soon, they won't remember your fall, only your rise. Every rise begins with surrender, not to defeat, but to destiny. You stop fighting the fact that life will hurt and start mastering how to use that hurt. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's strategy. There's a moment in every rise when it stops being about winning and starts being about becoming. That's when the climb changes, meaning you're not escaping pain anymore, you're expressing power. Rising again doesn't require confidence, it creates it. Confidence isn't what gets you back up, it's what you earn from getting up repeatedly. That's how you evolve from wounded to weaponized. Your scars are sacred blueprints. Study them. They'll tell you where you broke, where you healed, and where you must reinforce next. The body remembers pain, but the mind transforms it into precision. The comeback is spiritual warfare. You're fighting the old voices that whisper you'll fail again. Silence them with action. Each step forward is a declaration that fear no longer commands you. The ones who rise are dangerous, not because they're fearless, but because they've survived fear and kept walking. They no longer need guarantees, they only need goals. The deeper the fall, the higher the rise. Gravity works both ways. The depth of your suffering determines the height of your strength. Don't resent the fall. It built the foundation of your ascent. You'll know you've truly risen when peace replaces pressure, when you no longer chase validation because you've met yourself in the fire and liked who you became. That's freedom, self-respect, born from struggle. Every rise plants courage in someone else. Your resilience becomes someone else's permission to heal. You rise not just for yourself, but for everyone who needs proof that it's possible. And finally rise again, not because you have to, but because you can. Rise because pain tried to bury you, and you turned it into soil. Rise because you've learned that the only thing stronger than fear is faith in your own rebirth. Rise again, stronger, sharper, unstoppable. When you rise again, the air feels different, thinner, quieter, cleaner. You notice the silence that follows survival. It's not emptiness, it's space. Space for the new self to breathe. You've carried storms inside you for so long that calm feels foreign. Don't rush it. Let peace feel strange until it becomes home again. The comeback is never loud at first. It's subtle, built in whispers and micro-actions that nobody sees. You're rebuilding your rhythm molecule by molecule, teaching your spirit how to move without the weight of fear. The world won't applaud yet, but the universe notices every small resurrection. You start walking lighter because you've learned to release what no longer belongs to your becoming. The betrayals, the regrets, the endless self-blame gone. You realize they were anchors, not memories. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's strategy. You forgive to create bandwidth for greatness. When you've fallen enough times, you stop fearing gravity. You learn how to fall efficiently, less panic, more poise. You know exactly how to land, breathe, and rise again. That's the elegance of resilience. You master what once terrified you. The version of you that rises now isn't naive. It doesn't crave validation. It craves alignment. You no longer ask, "Will they understand me?" You ask, "Does this serve the truth I live by?" That shift makes you unshakable. Approval is temporary. Alignment is eternal. There will be people who only knew the broken version of you. They'll speak about your past as if it's still your present. Don't argue. Let your evolution confuse them into silence. Your results will do the explaining. Your peace will do the talking. Rising again means respecting the process more than the praise. You stop chasing the high of progress and start honoring the discipline behind it. You know the climb is endless, but now you love it. The ascent itself has become your identity. You begin to sense that life isn't happening to you, but through you. Every trial you endured sharpened your perception. Every setback refined your empathy. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start whispering, "Thank you for choosing me." Gratitude becomes your armor. The pain that once defined you now guides you. You can feel when something isn't meant for your peace. You read energy like language. That's evolution, not louder but wiser, not faster but clearer. Growth replaces reaction with recognition. Each morning becomes a quiet victory. You wake up with no guarantees, yet you still show up. That's strength, not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Courage has become your morning ritual. You realize that the world mirrors your inner state. When you were chaotic, everything felt hostile. Now that you're steady, even chaos feels manageable. Nothing external changed, you did. The battlefield moved from the world to within, and you conquered it. There's a sacred fatigue that comes with rising, not the exhaustion of effort, but the tired peace of knowing you've fought well. You rest, not because you're weak, but because you've earned the pause. Even warriors need stillness to sharpen their blades. The more you rise, the more solitude you crave, not because you're isolating, but because silence is now sacred ground. You've discovered that clarity whispers, it never shouts, and you'll do anything to keep hearing it. Rising again makes you allergic to half-hearted living. Mediocrity feels suffocating. You've seen what's possible when you commit fully, and you can't unsee it. That's why you no longer settle, not for comfort, not for company, not for excuses. Your new strength isn't explosive, it's stable. You no longer burn out trying to prove your fire. You've become the steady flame, small, constant, unextinguishable. That's power. The kind that doesn't need an audience to exist. Rising again means you've accepted imperfection as permanent. You no longer wait for flawless days. You work within the flaws and still produce beauty. Mastery isn't control, it's creativity under chaos. The old pain becomes reference, not residence. You visit it only to remember how far you've come. You no longer live there. That's how healing proves itself, when memory stops hurting and starts humbling. Each setback now feels like a rehearsal for resurrection. You've seen the pattern too many times. Fall, hurt, learn, rise higher. You stop fearing cycles because you understand their purpose. Life tests you until you master the lesson, then promotes you. You'll notice resilience breeds calm. While others panic in storms, you anchor yourself in patience. You've trained your emotions to obey wisdom, not impulse. The same waves that drown others now carry you forward. You're done chasing perfection, now you chase precision. Every move is intentional, every silence calculated. You've turned your chaos into choreography. That's what rising repeatedly does, it turns life into art. The higher you rise, the quieter the noise gets. You stop competing, comparing, explaining. You outgrow drama because peace performs better than pride. Silence becomes the loudest sign of evolution. When you rise after breaking, your empathy expands. You start seeing everyone as a version of yourself at different stages of healing. You stop judging, you start understanding. Compassion becomes your second strength. Rising again requires boundaries. You protect your energy like currency now. Not everyone deserves your access. Love doesn't mean unlimited entry, it means selective generosity. You can't rise surrounded by those who drain your altitude. You've learned that every fall wasn't rejection, it was redirection. The universe was never against you, it was editing your path. The detours were divine designs disguised as delays. Rising isn't linear, it's rhythmic. Some days you soar, others you stumble. But even in your lowest moments, you're higher than your last collapse. That's what progress truly looks like, not straight, but steady. The self that keeps rising eventually stops fearing endings. You realize everything that ends is simply clearing space for something refined. The death of comfort births capacity, the loss of certainty births faith. You become immune to external chaos. Your calm becomes contagious. You no longer need the world to cooperate before you act. You operate from internal order. Now that's true sovereignty. When you've risen enough times, your vocabulary changes. You stop saying, "I hope," and start saying, "I will." You stop seeking luck and start creating leverage. Confidence turns into quiet inevitability. You no longer run from pressure, you welcome it. Pressure creates diamonds, and you've grown addicted to refinement. You crave challenge because you know what it produces. Clarity, courage, and craftsmanship. Every rise leaves behind a lesson. Collect them like treasures, not trophies. Trophies gather dust. Lessons build empires. Each one becomes a blueprint for your next transformation. You'll begin to love yourself differently, not for what you achieve, but for what you endure. You recognize that self-respect is born in repetition, not reward. You love the one who kept showing up when no one clapped. The new you doesn't demand to be understood. You've learned that misunderstanding is a tax on authenticity. You're willing to pay it. Truth needs no translation for the aligned. When you rise again, you carry no anger, only awareness. You understand now that pain was a tutor, not an enemy. Bitterness dies once you see how necessary it was. You'll find that gratitude sneaks into your resilience. You stop resenting what hurt you. You start thanking it. Because without it, you'd still be asleep in comfort. Pain was the alarm clock that woke your purpose. Rising becomes easier once you realize there's no destination, only evolution. You're not climbing to arrive, you're climbing to transform. That's why the journey never ends, and why it's beautiful that it doesn't. And when you finally look back, you'll see that every fall was precision, every loss, direction, every pain, preparation. You'll realize the rise was never about rebuilding your life. It was about remembering your power. You were never meant to stay broken. You were meant to rise endlessly, stronger, sharper, unstoppable. If you've listened this far, then you already know the version of you that's waiting for someday will never arrive. Change doesn't come from the perfect moment. It comes from the moment you decide that waiting is no longer an option. You don't rebuild your life overnight. You rebuild it in small, silent steps when no one's watching. You rebuild it every time you choose discipline over distraction, effort over excuses, purpose over comfort. The process is slow, but the reward is freedom, freedom from who you used to be. Every failure you've faced, every setback you've survived, was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to shape you. The pain you carry isn't a punishment, it's a tool. And once you learn to use it, nothing can stop your growth. So, start small, but start now. Take action, even if it's messy. Build momentum, even if it's invisible. Because every day you choose action over fear, you're proving that your comeback will be stronger than your breakdown. You're not behind, you're just beginning. Rebuild yourself, piece by piece, and one day soon you'll look back and realize, this was the day everything changed.